Hello, Sophia here. This tutorial is going to show you how to paint or draw several different types of leaves. So today I will be using gouache, which is similar to watercolor, just a bit more opaque. So I'll also need my palette, but you can use whatever other medium you like as well. You'll need your brushes if you're using watercolor or gouache or acrylic, and water and paper towels. So I'm going to start with a very thin line, just kind of curving whichever direction you want. And then I'm going to take a round brush, dip it in, and then just kind of form these leaf shapes going off in either direction. So I'm pressing more at the beginning so it's thicker at the bottom, and then I pull my paintbrush up so it forms a thin point at the end of it. And I'm just working from the bottom of the leaf up to the top, and I'm kind of making each leaf smaller as I get to the top. And then just clean up the edges and kind of thin out the ends of them. So again, I'm going to be using my tiny brush and starting with a light brown color and just forming a thin curved line. And then this one I'm going to be doing kind of rounder shaped leaves. So I'm getting my slightly bigger round brush and I'm just kind of pressing down at the end of the brush and then connecting it to that base. And then I'm going to touch up that line, and I'm going to add a little bit of dark brown at the base of each leaf to give it more texture and dimension. Alright, and for the next one I'm going to stick with that light brown color and again do a very thin curved line. And then sticking with that very tiny brush, I'm just going to be doing a bunch of thin lines coming out from that stem to form kind of this fern shape. Again, I'm going to start with a very thin curvy line as the stem. And then I'm going to form some lines coming out from that stem and then more lines branching out from those ones. So I'm doing one longer line coming out from that base stem and then smaller lines coming out from that one as well. Sort of like when you're drawing tree branches. So now I mixed kind of a bluish green tone, again starting with that long thin line, and then sticking with my small brush, I'm going to kind of draw tear-shaped leaves coming out on either side, and I'm going to leave a white center. So I'm just kind of drawing the outline of these leaves, and again leaving a white space in the middle to form kind of the vein within each leaf. So I'm starting with a darker blue tone, long thin line, and then I'm drawing again kind of a teardrop shape coming out with a round edge. So it's kind of like an oval with a very, very skinny base. So it's small when it's connected to the vein, that thin line in the middle, and then it gets thicker and rounder at the edge. And as I draw the leaves going up the stem, they're going to be getting smaller. And then I'm going to do one final one at the top that's even smaller. Alright, so drawing the long thin stem, and then I'm going to draw fine little lines coming out from that stem, and then drawing kind of like a bush at the end. So I'm alternating sides, again drawing a thin line coming out from the stem, and then a bunch of tiny little lines at the end of it. Alright, same start, long thin line. And then I'm going to draw a thin leaf at the very end of it. And then I'm just going to draw kind of curvy lines that are a little bit thicker coming out from that stem. And you can draw them in whatever direction you want, however long you want, whatever color you want. I'm just going to paint them, getting a little bit smaller as they get towards the base. Next, again, starting with the stem, and then staying with that very tiny brush, I'm going to be doing a bunch of lines coming out from that stem. And they're all kind of curving in an upward direction. Now I'm going to take a second shade of green, kind of a darker, more olivey shade of green, and keep adding more lines to it till it looks very full. So for this next one, I'm going to start with a shorter stem and then kind of do like 3 bumps on each side to form this leaf shape. So I'm going to do that again to form 4 different leaves from this one. So again, I'm just making kind of a bumpy edge and filling it in. Then I'm adding a thin line down the middle of each leaf to form the vein. This one's going to be pretty similar to the one right next to it to the left. So I'm starting with a slightly thicker stem and then drawing curved lines coming out from that, and then 2 lines coming out from those ones. So again, just branching off. So similar thing as the one next to it, just with slightly thicker and bigger lines. Alright, so using a light brown tone again, forming kind of an S shape for the stem, and then drawing little lines sticking out from that on either side. Then I'm going to take a darker bluish green color and paint the classic leaf shape coming out from those little stems. And I'm going to try to vary the size and direction that the leaves are going in. So some are going to be pointing more upwards, some are more downwards. And I'm also going to overlap a couple of them. Then using a dark brown color, I'm going to go over them and add the vein right in the middle of each leaf. This one I'm starting with a shorter, thicker stem. And then I'm going to paint a series of 3 lines sticking out of that. Kind of making it symmetrical on both sides. Then taking a darker green color and painting very thin lines to form the veins throughout these. So this next one's going to be kind of just a freestanding leaf with no stem. So I'm going to do a jagged edge. So just kind of doing a zigzag line on each side and then filling it in. Then I'm going to take my smaller brush and just go over the edges one more time and make them more defined and crisp. So next I'm going to use a lighter yellowy tone. I'm going to start with my stem and then 2 other stems branching off of that to form 3. And then I'm going to do kind of a Y shape at the top and then a squiggly line connecting that to form kind of a V at the top. And then fill that in and do the same shape on the other 2 stems as well. Then I'm taking a darker green and darkening up the base of each leaf and drawing some lines coming upwards from the base. So again, starting with a long S shape for the stem. And then these leaves I'm going to kind of arch over, starting from the base on either side to form kind of an M shape. I'm going to follow that pattern all the way up to the top Again, making the leaves a little bit smaller as it gets closer to the top. So using a light brown color again, starting with the stem, and I'm going to do a bunch of little lines coming out, so it looks like a bunch of twigs stemming out from that main branch. Then I'm going to take a light green color and just do little circles at the end of each line. So they're just tiny little leaves at the end. And for the final one, I'm going to start with a shorter stem and then do some big squiggly leaves coming out from that. So I'm just doing kind of squiggly lines, connecting them together into a point to form a leaf shape, and then just filling those in. Thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you learned some cool new leaf shapes and textures that you can use in any of your future paintings. Like and subscribe for more cool tutorials like this.